Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to have your reality unplugged like a broken toaster, buckle in. This one's personal. She didn't look at me when she said it. She was still sawing through her salmon with the dullest knife on the table. I remember watching the silver blade stutter across her plate like it was struggling to cut through skin. Her voice was so casual, it felt like she was reading off a grocery list. So, I've been seeing someone, just to, spice things up. My fork didn't even make it to my mouth. It hovered midair, one limp piece of asparagus skewered on the end. As her words hung in the space between us like cigarette smoke in a car with the windows up, I didn't say anything at first. Not because I was being strong or dramatic, but because I genuinely thought I'd had a stroke. It was a Wednesday, midweek. We were supposed to be celebrating the fact that her project at work wrapped up. I booked the dinner, paid for parking, even ironed my shirt. All for this? I tried to laugh. Not in a bitter way, just one of those half-sane chuckles that slip out when your brain misfires under pressure. She looked up for the first time. Lowell, come on. Don't act like this is some huge betrayal. We've been flatlined for months. You said it yourself. I never said that. I said I was tired. I said I felt disconnected. I said I wanted us to spend more time together. Not once did I say, please, go find another man to jumpstart your libido. I placed my napkin down slowly. Not dramatically. I was trying to stop my hands from shaking. I felt every eye in the restaurant burning into my skin even though I knew no one was watching. That's what shame does. It invents an audience. And she just sipped her wine, like she hadn't just detonated a grenade in the middle of our dinner. You're sleeping with someone, I said. To spice things up? She nodded. It's not serious. Just something to jolt us out of this slump. Like we were an old TV set that needed banging on the side. I should have stormed out. I should have flipped the table or broken her wine glass or done something movie-worthy. Instead, I did something else. Something I don't regret. But that no one, especially her, saw coming. And if you think this dinner was rock bottom, wait until you see what happened when we got home. The silence in the car ride home was the loudest thing I've ever heard. I didn't yell. I didn't ask her questions. I didn't even blink in her direction. I just drove. Left hand on the wheel. Right hand clenched on my knee so hard I thought I'd leave a bruise. She didn't try to talk. Maybe she thought I needed time. Maybe she thought I was being dramatic. I'm sure, in her mind, the confession over dinner had been mature, honest, even brave. The second we walked through the front door, she went to kick off her shoes like nothing happened. Like we weren't standing on a battlefield where only one of us knew a war had started. I didn't follow her to the kitchen. I didn't ask if she wanted tea like I usually did. I walked straight to the hallway closet. It's not even a special closet. Just a narrow, stupid little thing with a broken hinge that's been squeaking since 2018. She hates that squeak. I left it broken on purpose. One of the few things I could control in this house. I pulled out a small cardboard box from the top shelf. Something she probably hadn't noticed in years. Dusty. Sealed. Unlabeled. By the time I turned around, she was standing behind me. "What's that?" she asked. Her voice had that sharpness she uses when she's nervous but wants to seem in control. I didn't say a word. I just walked past her, into the living room, and set the box down on the coffee table. I sat. Waited. She hovered at the edge like she wasn't sure whether to sit or run. Eventually, curiosity won. She opened the box. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Us from years ago. Smiling. Traveling. Sitting on the floor of our first apartment eating Chinese food out of plastic containers. Tickets from our first concert. A tiny menu from the diner where I first told her I loved her. A pair of earrings she once lost and thought I never replaced. And beneath it all, a printed letter. My handwriting. Pages long. She picked it up. Her fingers trembled just slightly. "I was going to give you this on our anniversary," I said. My voice cracked halfway through the sentence. "I thought maybe reminding you of who we were would help us find our way back." She didn't speak. Her lips parted like she might, but nothing came out. And then I said something I didn't plan. Something I didn't even know I felt until the words left my mouth. I was willing to fight for us. You were willing to replace me. She sat down slowly, the letter still in her hand. And for the first time that night, she looked scared. But I wasn't done. Not even close. She didn't cry. That's the part that stuck with me. Her hands were shaking as she folded the letter, but no tears came. Clarissa has always been good at containing things. Her emotions, her anger, even her affection when she wanted to withhold it. I used to think it made her mysterious. Now it just made her unreadable. I sat on the other side of the coffee table, watching her fingers grip the paper like it had burned her, like it was made of something radioactive. I expected her to say she was sorry. I expected her to try and explain or even lie. I would have taken a lie. Instead, she just whispered, "You shouldn't have written this." That knocked the air out of me. I blinked. "Excuse me?" She put the letter down gently, like she didn't want to wrinkle it. "This just makes it harder. You writing all of this, it's like you're trying to rewrite history. Like we were perfect." "We weren't perfect," I snapped. "But we were worth something. Or at least I thought we were." She leaned back against the couch, arms crossed, like she was shielding herself. "I'm not saying you're a bad person, Lowell. I'm saying I was dying in this marriage. Quietly, every day. My fists clenched without thinking. So you fixed that by bringing someone else into our bed?" She scoffed. "It's not like that." "Really?" I said, standing. "Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds exactly like that." Silence stretched long between us, like the room was holding its breath. Then I dropped the next blow, and I didn't even plan to. It just rose up from somewhere I'd buried it. "I know who he is." Her head jerked up so fast you'd think I slapped her. "I saw the texts," I said. 3 weeks ago. I recognized the name. I waited. I wanted to see if you'd come clean on your own." Clarissa's mouth opened, then closed again, like she was buffering. "It's Marcus, isn't it?" I said, watching her flinch. "Your coworker. The one who called you C in that flirty little email you forgot to delete." She said nothing. That was all the confirmation I needed. "You told me he was just your project manager." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He was." "Was," I repeated. Past tense. "Great." I turned toward the hallway. I couldn't stand the sight of her. My wife, the woman I thought I was building a life with, sat frozen, caught between defending herself and realizing she had no defense. As I walked away, she called after me. "Where are you going?" I didn't turn around. "To get some air." But that was a lie. I wasn't going outside. I was going to the garage, to get the second box. The one she definitely didn't know about. The garage was freezing. I didn't even bother with shoes. The concrete bit into my feet like punishment, but I barely noticed. I was running on something other than blood, rage maybe, or heartbreak dressed as adrenaline. The second box was behind the old paint cans, hidden in a dented metal locker I hadn't touched since we painted the guest room yellow. Clarissa said the color was optimistic. I remember wondering if she knew I hated it. I never said anything. I just painted the damn walls and smiled. This box wasn't like the first one. There were no love letters, no concert stubs, no soft nostalgia tucked inside. This box held truth, hard truth, collected piece by piece over 3 silent weeks. Photos, screenshots, a printed phone log, a receipt from a motel 2 towns over, dated for the same weekend she said she was visiting her cousin in Traverse City. I walked back inside and heard her on the phone, low and frantic, whispering like a child who'd broken a lamp and hoped no one heard the crash. "I don't know how he found out. He's not saying much. Marcus, just be careful." "Okay." I froze in the hallway. So she was already calling him. Already working damage control. Not apologizing. Not trying to fix this. Just shifting blame. Survival mode. I stood there for a long second, then stepped forward and cleared my throat. She jumped like I'd fired a gun. "Don't stop on my account," I said. "Tell Marcus I said hello." She hung up without another word and stared at the box in my arms like it was ticking. "What is that?" Something I made, I said. Since you made a new relationship. I set the box on the dining table and opened it. Her face changed. Color drained. Eyes darting between the receipts, the screenshots, the photo of her walking into that cheap motel with a man who was definitely not me. "You've been spying on me?" she whispered. I laughed, a hollow, brittle sound. "You've been cheating. Don't act like we're playing the same game." She touched one photo with trembling fingers. "You followed me?" "No. I watched you disappear, and I needed to know where you went." She reached for a chair and sat. Slowly, like gravity had doubled around her. I waited. I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the part where she broke, where she'd finally admit what she did. But instead, all she said was, "So now what?" It was a good question, one I hadn't answered yet, but I would. I just needed to go get one more thing, something she never thought I'd find. She sat frozen at the table, eyes darting between the receipts and the screenshots like they were evidence from someone else's life. I watched her carefully, waiting for the lies to start. The denial, the gaslighting, the sudden tears that never came when they should have. But she didn't speak. That, in a weird way, was worse. Like even she knew there was no version of this story where she didn't look like the villain. "I want to show you something else," I said. Her jaw clenched. "There's more." "Oh yeah," I said, reaching for my laptop. "You think I stopped at motel receipts?" I opened the screen and turned it toward her. Her name was still logged in. Clarissa had never been good with passwords. She used her first pet's name for everything, and I'd figured it out years ago. I never touched her stuff before, never snooped, never needed to, until I did. I clicked open the folder I created. Inside were emails, hundreds of them, all starred, all from one sender, Marcus. I scrolled until I found one I hadn't been able to read in full the first time. Not because it was the worst, but because it was the most honest. "See, I don't think you're gonna leave him. I get that he's comfortable, safe. But don't lie to yourself about what this is. You light up around me. I've never seen a married woman fight so hard to keep a foot in both worlds." I paused, looked up at her. She didn't flinch, but her fingers curled around the bottom of the chair like she wanted to dig into the wood. "You wrote back," I said, "and told him you weren't ready yet, that you'd figure something out. What were you planning to figure out, exactly? How to break my heart gently." "It wasn't like that," she muttered. I leaned in. "Then what was it like?" Silence. I let the weight of that hang between us before I hit play on a voicemail I'd forwarded to my desktop. I'd found it on her phone before she changed the passcode. Marcus again. His voice smug, low, and familiar in the worst way. "Hey babe, let me know if you want to stay over again Thursday. He'll believe whatever you tell him. He always does." I paused it there. Her eyes filled, finally. But the tears weren't for me. They were for herself. For the life she was watching implode in slow motion. And then, just barely above a whisper, she asked, "Why are you showing me all this?" I stood, walked over to the window, looked out at the lemon tree in our backyard that never gave us a single fruit. "Because I needed you to know I'm not stupid," I said. "And because you're going to tell me the rest." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't break a thing. But the way I said it made her sit up straighter. There was more to this. I could feel it, and I was finally ready to hear it. She stared at the floor like the answers were hiding in the rug fibers. I stayed by the window, giving her the silence she once weaponized against me. For years, every time we argued, she'd retreat into these long, drawn-out silences. Not because she was thinking, but because she wanted to win. I used to chase her words. I used to apologize just to break the silence. "Not this time. You said you'd figure something out," I repeated. "So now's your chance. Figure it out." Clarissa looked up slowly. Her eyes were rimmed red but still dry. "It wasn't supposed to go this far." I almost laughed. That phrase, "wasn't supposed to." Like this was a lab experiment that got out of hand. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to hear it all. "It started 6 months ago," she said. "We were working late. Marcus had just split from his fiancée, and he was emotionally messy. I didn't intend for anything to happen. But it did, I said flatly. She nodded. We were drunk. One time. That's how it started. I raised an eyebrow. You kept a hotel receipt from 2 months ago. That wasn't one time. She swallowed hard. After the first time, I told myself I could still control it, that it was a phase. I kept waiting for it to stop. But you didn't stop. I tried. I really did. I told him we had to end it 3 times. But he kept coming back. And I didn't exactly push him away. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but all I did was nod. Slowly, like I was marking her words in permanent ink. Did you love him? I asked. Her lips trembled. No, but I liked how he made me feel. There it was. The real betrayal. Not the affair. Not even the lies. It was the fact that someone else made her feel something she never asked from me. That she let herself have it without even offering me the chance to try. Why didn't you just talk to me? I asked, my voice breaking now. Why didn't you say, Lowell, I feel dead inside? Or, I miss the way things were? Or even just, I need help. Why cheat? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The question hung between us unanswered. Because there was no good answer. Not one that would ever make sense to someone who didn't destroy a relationship for thrills. I guess. I didn't think you'd do anything, she finally whispered. You always avoid conflict. You shut down. I nodded. You're right. And I turned toward the hallway. Where are you going? She asked, her voice rising in panic. I didn't look back. To pack a bag. I need space. And so do you. I wasn't leaving forever. But I wanted her to feel what it's like to sit in silence and be terrified of what might come next. I tossed clothes into the duffel like a man escaping a fire. No plan, no destination, just this urgent, ugly need to breathe somewhere she hadn't touched. I didn't even pack well, 2 shirts, mismatched socks, my phone charger, a half-empty bottle of headache meds. Nothing that said, I'm leaving for good, but everything that said, I don't feel safe here right now. She followed me to the front door, barefoot, still holding the letter I wrote for our anniversary. Now folded, creased, and damp at the corners. She didn't say anything until I grabbed the keys. You're really going to leave like this? She asked, voice small. Like she was suddenly the one being abandoned. I didn't look at her. Couldn't. You didn't ask me before you invited someone else into our marriage. Don't expect me to ask for permission now. Her voice broke. I messed up. I know that. But don't you think this is just running away? No, I said, turning the knob. This is what staying would have looked like if I had cheated. So consider this balance. That shut her up. For once, the night air hit me like a slap. Cold. Final. I didn't even lock the door behind me. I heard her footsteps on the porch a second later. Lowell, wait. Please. I kept walking. Her voice followed. Do you really think this ends us? Just like that? I stopped at the car door, hand on the handle. I finally turned. No, I don't think it ends us. But I think it ends what we were. And then I got in and drove. Not far. Just enough. I pulled into a cheap motel off the highway. Not the one she used, a different one. I needed the contrast. The clerk didn't ask questions. I paid in cash. The room smelled like old soap and defeat. Felt fitting. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the beige wall, wondering how the hell 2 people can live in the same house and slowly forget each other. What's worse, that she lied, or that I was so numb I didn't see it coming. My phone buzzed. A message from her. Please come home. We can talk. I stared at it. Then I stared at the wall. I didn't reply, because I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. I had something else to do first. 2 days passed before I came back. I didn't call. I didn't answer her texts. I needed the silence. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to sit with the weight of my own disappointment. Not run from it, not bury it under chores and compromise. Just sit with it. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her waiting through the window. Same dining room, same table, but everything else had changed. I walked inside. No hugs. No fake warmth. Just her eyes, scanning my face for what kind of man had returned. "I thought you wouldn't come back," she said quietly. "I thought I wouldn't either," I admitted. We sat across from each other like two strangers who shared a dream once. She looked thinner. Or maybe I was just seeing her honestly for the first time. Not through the lens of what I hoped she was, but for who she'd actually become. "I talked to a lawyer," she said. My heart kicked. "Are you filing?" "No," she said quickly. "I wanted to understand what happens if you do. I needed to know how far I'd pushed you." I nodded. That was the first real thing she'd said in weeks. She reached across the table with a folder. "These are all the passwords to my accounts. My phone. Everything. No more secrets." I didn't touch it. "I'm not staying," I said gently. "But I'm also not leaving out of bitterness. I just need to rebuild somewhere new. Alone. Without wondering every day if I'm not enough." She blinked hard. "So, this is it?" "No," I said, standing up. "This is a beginning. Just not the one either of us expected." I walked out of that house not as a victim, but as someone who finally chose himself. I rented a small apartment downtown. I started jogging. I stopped apologizing for being quiet, sensitive, or slow to process. I started liking the man I saw in the mirror again. And Clarissa, she texts me every so often. Not to win me back, just to say she's working on herself. I believe her, but I'm not waiting anymore. Some stories don't end with revenge or explosions. Some just end with someone standing up and saying, "I deserve more than crumbs." If you've ever experienced a moment like this, a quiet but powerful turning point, drop it in the comments. We want to hear your story, your version of strength. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds its voice. See you in the next one.